Commander Rex pilots their ship through hyperspace. Next to him sits Ahsoka Tano, and behind her sits Quinlan Vos.
We better keep an eye on this,
Ahsoka said, holding the holocron in her hand.
Who knows who may be after it?
Quinlan Vos stroked the stubble on his chin. That artifact you hold is no joke, Ahsoka. The last time I saw one of those, Dooku had one.
I know.
Ahsoka said, staring into its red glowing core.
But it's strange how something so small can have such great power.
Well, what do you expect? Rex chimed in. Small and powerful. Just like Master Yoda. Speaking of Master Yoda, Vos said, how close are we to Coruscant? Vos suddenly stopped mid-sentence and grabbed his chest, as if his heart skipped a beat. Ahsoka turned back to him.
You felt it too?
Rex was caught off guard by the situation. Are you two okay? Vos stood to his feet, still holding his chest. Something has happened. Something very bad. Rex looked over his shoulder. He saw Quinlan still clutching his chest. What? Are you having a heart attack? No, I'm fine, Vos replied, lowering his hand to his side. I don't know what that was, but I've never felt anything like it.
Me either,
Ahsoka replied. Rex studied the situation. He didn't feel anything personally, but his Jedi friends did. If he didn't know any better, this was clearly a disturbance in the Force. Well, whatever the case, we'll be at Coruscant soon. Perhaps the Council also felt this feeling. After a few minutes, the trio exit hyperspace. They come across the coordinates of Coruscant, only there was nothing. Ahsoka was confused.
Rex, I thought you said we arrived.
We did, Rex replied, scanning into the horizon of stars. There was nothing, as if Coruscant had just vanished out of existence. Ahsoka scanned the emptiness of space again. All she could see were black scraps of ship debris. Vos peered out the window to see a small sphere in the distance. What is that?
It looks like a small moon,
Ahsoka said. Rex studied the structure. I don't know. Perhaps they have some sort of jammer messing with our location. Maybe that's why our computer is telling us this is Coruscant. Rex grabbed his communicator. I'll try contacting them. Maybe they can lower the jammer signal so we can jump to Coruscant. Upon the Death Star, the signal comes through. A droid turns to his master, Maul.
Sir, we have contact with someone. He says his name is Captain Rex of the Republic.
Rex leaned over to Ahsoka and joked, You know, if I didn't know any better, that droid sounded like a clanker. Ahsoka smiled back.
Yeah, that'd be a surprise.
A voice finally came over the communicator. Captain Rex. It has been too long. Rex was caught off guard. You know me? Well, of course. Who could forget the great Captain Rex? The greatest clone to ever live. Rex, Ahsoka, and Vos were still trying to wrap their heads around what was going on. Look, friend, my comrades and I are looking to jump to Coruscant. Do you by any chance have a jammer upon your vessel? Yes, the voice replied, but I don't have it on at the moment. I had just used a massive amount of power to create something I like to call chaos. Rex was getting more confused by the moment. Ahsoka chimed in.
Look, buddy, we're trying to get to Coruscant.
Well, if you're looking for Coruscant, the man replied, you've arrived. The heroes looked out their window and studied the black debris and salvage floating in space. Slowly, Ahsoka began to piece the situation together, as the spherical ship in the distance began to glow green.
He killed them all.
But do not worry, Maul said with a sinister smile, stepping into the hologram and revealing himself to the trio. You will be joining them soon.
Rex!
Ahsoka called out, realizing who the voice belonged to.
Fly now!
Rex grabbed the steering wheel and pulled it to the left. Ahsoka watched as a massive green beam shot straight for them, clipping their ship, which in turn caused a massive explosion. Maul watched from the Death Star as their ship ignited in flames, while a smirk lit up his face. I'll never get tired of that. Within minutes, Maul was on his personal ship heading for the wreckage. His ship pulled up next to theirs and he boarded. He was surprised to see the ship was still in good shape considering what had just happened. His droid officer came to his side, blaster prepped to kill.
Are you sure they survived?
I only fired at them with less than 1% of the Death Star's power. Enough to dismantle the ship, not to obliterate it. Quickly, the escape pod, Vos said, holding his left, now injured shoulder. He watched as Rex entered the pod with Ahsoka draped over his shoulder. She's hurt, but she'll make it. Well, Captain, aren't we being quite optimistic? A voice sounded from behind Vos. It was Maul. He used the Force to pull the holocron from Ahsoka's bag to his hand. No, the holocron, Rex said. Vos looked back to Rex, then towards Maul and the dozens of droids that surrounded him. He ignited his lightsaber and hit the escape pod preparation button. As the engines warmed up, Rex looked on confused. Vos, you mind telling me what you're doing? Get Ahsoka out of here. This Sith is mine. Vos stepped out of the pod and shut the doors, ejecting the pod from their ship. May the Force be with you, brother, Rex muttered to himself. He looked at the pod's control console. I'm just glad they started adding lightspeed to these things. He turned on the lightspeed and the escape pod launched into hyperspace. Maul and Vos stood silent, just sizing each other up. After a few seconds, Quinlan spoke. How did you survive? I thought you died in the Clone Wars. My friend, the dark side is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. Maul replied with a smirk. Fine, keep your secrets. I don't care anyway, Voss stated as he stood in his battle stance. I don't care how you lived before. This time, you die today, Maul. The battle droids readied their blasters. However, Maul lifted his arm, signaling for them to halt their attack. It's been quite some time since I faced another Force user, Maul said, force pulling his lightsaber to his hand. Now do not get me wrong, Jedi. My general has kept me at the peak of my abilities. However, in the end of the day, he is only a droid. Maul ignited his blade and began to engage in combat with a Jedi. A droid general with lightsabers, Voss said, trying to wrap his mind around Maul's words. You mean Grievous? How? I was brought his remains a decade and a half ago, and I rebuilt him better and stronger than before, Maul stated before slashing his blade towards Quinlan's head. I even reprogrammed his brain to give me absolute loyalty. True loyalty doesn't come by force, it's earned by respect, Voss replied, locking blades with the Sith. Perhaps you're right, Maul said with a smirk. Unless you have other means of control. As their blades were locked, Voss adjusted his vision to notice that Maul had a Sith holocron in his other hand. However, now, it was glowing with a red aura. Suddenly, the color of Voss's eyes began to turn a hazy red as Quinlan began to grow weaker. What is this? He muttered as he fell to the floor of the ship, seemingly paralyzed. He felt as though he was locked in his own body. You see, Jedi, Maul said, holding the tip of his blade to the petrified Voss's neck. The dark side is like a scar. It mars you, and even when you think it's healed, the scar shall remain. He looked to the holocron in his hand, and with this artifact, I can control said scar without resistance. And believe me when I say, there are trillions of scars in this galaxy. All Voss could do was gaze up at Maul from the ground. He looked at the Sith's eyes, defeated. With the only strength he could muster, he managed to release a few words. What are you waiting for? Kill me. Maul looked at Quinlan with a smile. No, he said, catching Voss off guard. I don't think I will. He deactivated his lightsaber and placed it back on his belt. He then knelt down next to Voss and waved his hand over his head, knocking the Jedi out. That would be a waste of a great asset. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the post-conversation part of this video. Pretty much what I want to start doing with every single one of these episodes I'm releasing for the Order 66 failed videos. I want to release kind of like a talk to the fans afterwards, I guess you could say. So I guess we'll see how this goes. If you guys want to see more of these, if you like these little communication videos after the episodes, let me know. And if you have any questions for me you want me to answer in future videos, let me know, comments below. Now with that said, let me just kind of at least make this episode more focused on where this whole idea came from. So if you guys didn't know, this whole Order 66 failed. Initially it started with what if the Jedi Council survived Order 66. This was kind of like my YouTube claim to fame. I had a lot of other videos that were pretty impressive, did pretty good, but this one was one that set me apart from other YouTubers, and I think that's why a lot of people initially subscribed to me, was because I had a story that was very intriguing, and it was almost good enough to be its own thing, if it was allowed to be a real thing. Speaking of which, Disney, if you're watching this and you want to hire a new writer, I'll do it cheap. Just saying. Now with that said, there are a bunch of questions that have come up over the years of what exactly happened? Why did I stop writing this series? And there's a couple different reasons, so I'm going to cover them here. So if anyone ever has any questions, if you ever see comments of someone being like, oh, I wonder why he stopped for so long, make sure to send them this link to the video and then tell them to watch the end of the video, because this is the reasoning. So for me, when I first started working on this series, it was back in 2016. Someone asked me, hey, what if Mace Windu, and this is back when I did like every suggestion people would give me. Not just because I don't do that now, but it's more of in the past, I didn't have my daughter, and I had a lot of less like other things I needed to focus on. So I had more time for pretty much anything. So I'd go on my Snapchat, or I just say in the comments, I'd be like, hey guys, let me know. What type of questions you guys have for me, or what type of videos do you want to see from me, and if I like the idea, I'll do them. Eventually got to the point where I pretty much did all like the main topics, and people kept asking me videos that I already did, so I just linked the same videos. And I I'd say I kind of got burned out because I would be doing 1 to 2 theories a week. And I remember back then, views were really crappy as far as click rate goes. So you really didn't make any money off of those videos. And so I would put like hours and hours of work into a 10-minute video, and it might get like 2,000 views. Even if it did get 10,000 views, that's still only a couple bucks. And it was just like, it wasn't worth it. And so now we're at the point where the YouTube click rate is better than ever. Well, besides the current pandemic, which has kind of made it worse, but it will come back. And this January was amazing compared to my previous January, and every year click rate gets better. So I decided to kind of bring this back because not only is this, you know, something that I really like to do in the past that just, it wasn't worth my time doing because it took too much to do, but I also built a massive fan base over the years because of these videos. People have been asking for them to come back, so they are back. So the next question comes to, where did it all start? Where did I start making this series? So like I mentioned, back in 2016-ish, maybe early 2017, someone asked me to make a theory on what if Mace Windu survived. And I made that theory, and that was just like a standalone video. And eventually someone else said, hey, what if the entire Jedi Council survived? And I was like, well, that'd be a long story to kind of tell. You have to go into every single part of where all the council members are at, and how this would affect the entire story. I mean, that's a lot of work, but it could be pretty cool. So let's see how it goes. So I made chapter 2, and I think that one was Plo Koon. I think I did Plo Koon first. And some of the newer events that we found out about Star Wars since then has kind of messed with that older story. But I'm going to be doing some stuff with the future chapters that you guys are going to be watching that is going to retcon some of the stuff that I might have messed up. So it's still kind of more cohesive. You're going to have to just wait and see what I'm going to do with that, but that is what it is. So from there, I went to the next Jedi Council member, and then the next one. Eventually I got to the end, and it became this full 50-minute story, and people absolutely loved it. It now is sitting currently at 1 million views, 1.2 million views. So yeah, it's a pretty big deal, and it's a work of fiction. It's something that's interesting that it's got so many views because it is just a fan fiction that I wrote and people really seem to like. So I eventually continued the story with the volume 2. And this takes place 19 years later, which would initially be A New Hope. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted to bring Luke and Leia into the story. And if by doing that, you can kind of see how different their characters are. I wrote Luke to be a little bit more strong-headed. I wrote Leia to be a little cocky. You know, just different type of elements that you can see that these characters have changed because of that reason. And then you get to the biggest, I guess you could say, cliffhanger endings of my channel's existence, and that was when the Death Star destroys Coruscant, kills Padme, and yeah, it's a big moment, and it's been a massive point that people have been waiting for a resolution for this entire time. I think I wrote that around the same time as my daughter was about to be born. Is that right? Or I think actually my wife was in like the middle stages of her pregnancy, and that just took like a big toll on me mentally, and I just didn't have the energy to keep on writing. I thought to myself, you know what? I'll just kind of work on the story a little bit here and here, and eventually I'll release it. Well, eventually, I kind of took a step back from my channel. I took about a year off, a year and a half. I still made videos here and there, but it wasn't what I'm doing like now or what I did before. It was a completely different thing. I just personally was burned out because between, you know, my wife's pregnancy as well as actually having my daughter and then, you know, raising her and, you know, to the newborn stage, it was just too much for me to be able to do that. And I just something needed to go. And unfortunately it had to be YouTube because, you know, real life has to take precedence over YouTube. And at the time, I wasn't really making enough to make it make sense. So it is what it is. That's just life. So that really affected my creation of my story. Now after that, I started actually working on my own personal book, which is called The War for Troy. It is my own trilogy about the my own adaptation on the Trojan War. It is my own adaptation, so I am changing some character elements while also paying homage to, you know, the Iliad and a little bit of the Odyssey, stuff like that. And I've been putting a lot of energy into that book. Now, I had just finished the first book. Right now it is actually still being edited, and I gotta do some different tweaks here and there, but my creative writing mind was focused on making that first book. So with that said, I now am able to kind of branch off and do something different. So while I loved writing that first book, and I'm still going to get to book 2 and book 3, I want to change it up a little bit, and I found it fun to kind of just jump into what my theories of where Star Wars, this next chapter, would go as far as my story. Now, with that said, it did take me a little bit. I've been promising this episode specifically for a long time. I think I initially wanted to release this back in December, and it just kept getting pushed back. The truth is, when it comes to the story, I didn't know where I wanted to pick up. I had outlines a long time ago. When I was first writing the story, I had outlines for the rest of the entire series. And then I must have lost them, or they got thrown away when I moved into the new house, and they're just gone. And so I kind of lost the will to want to write because I lost what my outline was for the story. And I felt like no matter what I do, I wouldn't be able to make a better story than what my original outline had. However, luckily, actually, I think like just a month and a half ago, I was looking through some old documents on my old Google Drive account, and I found them. Now, of course, the document that I found on my computer, it doesn't have the full out outlines like I had. Like, I had everything planned out. I had where this character was gonna go, where this guy was gonna die. I had this situation planned out, where this fight scene was gonna take place. I had all this planned out on pieces of paper that I lost in the move. And this outline just had like small little vague points. So using that very vague outline and, you know, part of my memory, as well as making some new stuff up, I came up with a new storyline and where I want the story to go. And I think it's actually better. And I think for that reason, as well as my creative writing abilities, instead of going towards my own book, I was able to actually make this story. So I hope you guys enjoy that. So I guess that's kind of the end of this discussion video. There's not really much more I can really touch on personally, but if you guys have any questions about the future of the storyline, what's going to happen next, something that happened in this video that you have a question about, something that happened in one of the previous videos you had a question about, let me know in the comments, and I'll try to answer that in the next discussion video after chapter 8. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. If you like this, let me know. If you don't like this, also let me know. I'll take it out if you guys don't like it, but hey, I think it's fun to just kind of talk to you guys. So let me know. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.